Lore and legends, you say? Well, I can see like 5 separate topics to talk about already. So yes, in case you missed it, TFT just revealed its newest set, and this time it is focusing on the canonical lore of Runeterra. This doesn't mean that we are setting up new stories or even diving into the canonical universe, because the way the convergence works is that there is just many different versions of the canonical universe. And so no, the Pangu wasn't actually there in Demacia. He just took a peek into one of the universes that is following the canonical events. Long story short, it is kinda complex. But it does still mean that in this set, every champion, every trait, and every augment is paying attention to the canonical stories. And yes, I do kinda wanna talk about all of them eventually. But interestingly enough, to cramp in as many champions as possible, Riot also gave this set a new mechanic. Instead of the classic 60 units in a set, Lore and Legends will have over 100 units available, with the catch being that a lot of these will be locked behind story quests. It is only after you complete those quests you unlock those champions, after which they will start appearing in your shop. And yes, you can technically unlock as many champions as you want. But once again, all the conditions for all the unlocking of champions is based on lore. And so, because this set will reward you for your knowledge of the champion's background, today we will talk about all the locked champions and we will explain how those locks are referencing their story. Because knowing this will definitely make unlocking their potential easier for you. Just like how you can unlock your potential with this sponsor. Have you ever longed for improving your skills at tasks you deemed impossible? Well, you can with the help of Boot.dev. This video is sponsored by Boot.dev. One of the best ways you can learn, regardless of what you want to learn, is to have fun. Forget YouTube tutorials or reading tech books. Yuck! Boot.dev offers just about the best way to learn backend development from beginning to the end by turning everything into an RPG adventure. Do you want to learn how to code in Python, Go, C, or Java? Do you want to learn how Git works as well as Linux? Well, you can by jumping into a few adventures and slaying beasts by fixing code. On your code learning adventure, you will get XP, level up, collect achievements, and complete many quests. And as you do, you can even join community boss battles, where you deal damage by learning about more code. And that is all while you learn one of the most valuable skills in this industry. And that is because, as it turns out, backend development is just about the most paid when it comes to software in general. And as a new feature, Boot.dev also has the training grounds, which is a place that allows you to tackle infinite challenges and get as much practice as you want. Meaning that even if you are done with your daily quests, you can get as much knowledge as your head can take. And that is all part of the same RPG environment. So go to Boot.dev and use my code Necrit to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. The links to all of that will be in the description. And with that, after talking about collecting knowledge, let's go back to talking about other collectibles. So, let's dive right into the new mechanic of locking champions behind story quests. We will go through all the champions and we will go through them as they are listed on Mobalytics, because that is a really cool website that actually has them sorted. Meaning that for the first one, we're starting with Bard, whom you can get by rerolling 4 times before stage 2. Unfortunately, this is one of the rare ones that is not that connected to the lore, and that is mostly because rerolling is Bard's entire mechanic. That is the one champion that enables you to hyperroll. However, technically, the rolling is still referencing the adventurous side of Bard, because as you roll, you discover champions, and Bard is all about discovering what's happening on Runeterra, because he is collecting powerful artifacts and he is taking them away from mortals to protect them. So you know what, the rerolling mechanic totally makes sense. But next, we have Graves, and you unlock Graves by fielding Twisted Fate with 2 items. This is a reference to their relationship throughout the entire story. When they were young, Twisted Fate and Graves were great buddies and they committed a lot of crimes. Eventually there was a great heist where Twisted Fate was cornered, he was forced to flee and he left Graves behind. This is where their friendship broke apart and Graves started hunting TF down. It took a while, but eventually the two managed to talk, they became friends again, and once again they became partners in crime. As well as in... you know. So yes, because they are partners, their passive ability is also to mark the target for the other one. In fact, the entire passive is called Partners in Crime. After this there is Oriana, which is unlocked by getting 3 Piltovens or higher. I'll be honest, I am pretty sure this is just a minor spoiler for Arcane. Because yes, now we know that Oriana was in Arcane and nothing really happened with her. So she is just sitting there, menacingly. After this there is Poppy, which is unlocked by fielding a Demacian or a Yordle with 2 items. As you'll see, every single Yordle has a lock of fielding something with something, and it is always related to the origin of that specific Yordle. So for Poppy, the Yordle part makes sense. She is a Yordle, but she also works for Demacia because Poppy was there during the foundation of Demacia. Yes, she is very old, and she is even carrying the legendary hammer of Orlon, which is the person who founded the kingdom. After this there is Tryndamere, who is unlocked by fielding Ashe with 2 items. This is a reference to the fact that Tryndamere and Ashe were in a political marriage. While Tryndamere is from a barbarian tribe that got slaughtered, Ashe is of course from the Avarosan tribe. To make both sides stronger and to unite against the Winter's Claw, the two got together because of politics. But it didn't take long, and the political marriage actually bloomed into romance. So yes, Tryndamere and Ashe are married. Next up there is Yorick, whom you unlock after fielding 2-star Viego with 2 items. Now, the entire Shadow Isles trait is about fielding Viego and killing stuff to collect souls. The reason why Yorick is the first one to be unlocked here is because it is a funny reference to Yorick being forgotten. That's right, even though Yorick's entire story has always been about finding the ruined king and stopping him, during the Sentinels of Light event, which is where people actually managed to stop Viego, Riot kinda forgot about Yorick, and Yorick didn't do much. And so this time, Yorick is on the front line and he is getting the spotlight. But the references go deeper, you'll see them in a moment. Before that, next, there is also Darius. And you unlock Darius after you get Draven and let him drop 1 gold. Now, Draven is Darius's brother. And while Darius became the Hand of Noxus, also known as the General of the Trifarian Legion, his brother Draven became a Reckoner. In other words, a gladiator. And so his mechanic is all about killing targets to drop gold for the adoration of the audience. And after he pulls it off, Darius enters the game. Now after this, you get Gwen after collecting 20 souls with Viego. This is a really clever reference to Viego's deeper story. You see, the soul of Viego's wife, Isolde, has been shattered, and all of those pieces managed to scatter across the world. There is one piece that became Yorick's maiden, this is why you unlock Yorick before Gwen, and another piece entered the doll named Gwen, which then became a living being. If you are curious about the other shards, some were scattered in random items around the world, but one also entered Sana, but Sana and Lucian are separate units. So next there is Kennen, who is unlocked after you get 8 stars of Yordles, Ionians or Defenders. Once again, as it is the case with all Yordles, it is all related to who the Yordle is. So in this case, Kennen is a Yordle. He is also a member of the Kinku Ninjas of Ionia, and he is defending his newfound homeland. So again, all the traits totally make sense. After this, there is also Kabuko and Yumi. Now, I'll be honest, it is a shame we didn't get Nora and Yumi, since Nora and Yumi are from the same household. But Riot needed a brawler, so they took Kabuko instead. Now again, in this case, both are from the Bandle City, which is why the Yordle is there. Kabuko is a brawler, Yumi is an invoker, it makes sense. But then there is LeBlanc, whom you unlock after fielding Scion with 2 items. You see, Scion used to be a Noxian general, who fought and killed Jarvan I. However, he also died in the same battle. So after this, his body was taken in by the Black Rose, and using really twisted hemomancy with the help of Vladimir, the Black Rose managed to resurrect Scion and turn him into a hemomancy construct. So yes, LeBlanc is responsible for Sion's resurrection. Next up there is Diana, whom you unlock after fielding 2-star Leona with 3 items. This is one big reference to the entire big story between these two. You see, both Leona and Diana used to be from the Solari tribe of Mount Targon, but while Leona followed the Solari teachings, Diana discovered that the forbidden knowledge of the Lunari was not really evil. Of course, eventually both of these climbed Mount Targon and they both became aspects of the opposite Celestials. Also yes, when they were young, Leona and Diana were a couple. Next up there is Fizz. Fizz is a Yordle and Fizz is also annoying people in Bilgewater. That's kinda it. Next up there is Kaisa, who might be one of the few champions with no real references to her lore. I was hoping for a reference with Kassadin, who is her father, but nope, it is just a reference to her trait. Firing from long distance, I guess. It's not even about killing Void or anything like that. I'm kinda disappointed. Anyway, next there is Kalista for collecting 75 souls with Shadow Isles. This is a big reference to the fact that Kalista used to be Viego's general. She was there to fight for him to the very end. She went on his grand quest to find a cure for his dying queen. And in the end, right before the ruination happened, Kalista was betrayed and killed by Hecarim. So very long story short, Kalista is related to Viego. Next up there is both Nasus and Renekton, whom you unlock with the same mechanic. For both of them you have to field Azir and let him die. Or win, I accidentally overlooked that, but that makes things a lot more interesting, because for Renekton you have to win, and of course we know that later on Zeroth whispered evil things into Renekton's ear, and so near the end of this video you'll see how this is all related to Zeroth as well. This is because both Nasus and Renekton were Azir's personal guards. And so it makes sense for them to attend their Emperor once the Emperor is in danger. Next, you can unlock Nidalee by fielding two 2-star Nikos together. Why is it two 2-star Nikos? Well, that is because Nico can mimic whatever she sees. And so it is a reference to her kinda making duplicate illusions. But the reason why you unlock Nidalee is because while Nico was traveling around the jungles of Ishtal, she and Nidalee met, and as was teased many times, the two kinda got into each other. At this point, this was referenced in many different places. Next, there is Rift Herald. It's a big voidy bug. There is no real lore yet. After which there is Singed, whom you unlock after taking 30 damage and having 4 Zonites or Juggernauts. Now, the taking damage is not really a reference to the fact that Singed would be a tank or something like that. It's more because of, in the story, Singed always experimented on his own body, so in a way, he was the one taking damage. After this, there is Skarner, whom you unlock after fielding a unit that is not a tank and giving them Gargoyle Stoneplate. This is mostly a reference to the fact that Skarner makes the entire team tanky, so even if you get a non-tank unit, they can still tank. But on top of this, Skarner's story is all about protecting Ishtal from outside influence. So the defending part is still part of his lore. Then there is Veigar, whom you unlock by getting in a unit with 2 Rabadon Deathcaps. This is simply because Veigar is an evil Yordle sorcerer who really likes powerful magic. Then there is Warwick, whom you unlock by getting a 2-star Jinx and Vi. If you've seen Arcane, I guess this makes sense. After which there is Yone, whom you unlock after 3-starring Yasuo. Now, Yasuo and Yone are brothers. Their story is kinda long and somewhat complex, but here we go. You see, while Noxus was invading Ionia, Yasuo was tasked with protecting the master of their village. But as the soldiers were getting closer, Yasuo left his post and he killed all those Noxians. And while he was gone, the master died. Now, after the master died, it was obvious he died because someone used the wind technique on him, with Yasuo being the only one who mastered it. Now, of course, behind the scenes we know that, in the meantime, Riven came in, she asked the master to destroy her blade, the master used the wind technique, it reflected back, and the master died. So no, Yasuo didn't do anything bad. But everyone thought he did. And so Yasuo started fleeing, the entire village started chasing him, and eventually his own brother faced him. This eventually ended with Yasuo killing his own brother, after which we fast forward many years and his brother Yone is back. How is that possible? Well, the answer is Ionia and demons. So yes, long story short, Yone and Yasuo are brothers. Now after this, there is also Aatrox, whom you unlock after fielding in a unit with at least 40% Omnivamp. This is a big old reference to the fact that Aatrox is a Darkin, who is also constantly reshaping his own body using blood magic. So the Omnivamp is referencing Aatrox constantly absorbing the bodies of his victims. Next there is Galio, whom you unlock after getting at least 12 stars of Demacian units. Of course, Galio is the ultimate protector of Demacia. He is a giant statue that is constantly looming over the entire kingdom, and he only wakes up when a powerful mage gets close. Which is why Galio was mostly used during the Great Mage Wars. Also, because you get Galio as the very last unit after getting 12 stars of Demacians, him dropping in at the very end is still a reference to the Warriors cinematic. Then there is Mel, whom you unlock after letting Mbessa die with one item. I guess this is spoilers for Arcane. Then there is Seth, whom you get after getting to level 8 and fielding only one unit in the front line. This is a reference to Seth being the lone fighter fighting in his own reckoning pits. Then there is Tahm Kench, whom you unlock after spending 500 Silver Serpents. Simply said, Tahm Kench is a demon that is lurking around Bilgewater. His favorite activity is to make shady deals with the unsuspecting people of Bilgewater. And so it makes sense to unlock him after pulling off too many deals. Then there is T-Hex, whom you get after getting 9 levels of Piltovens. Now I'll be honest, T-Hex has still never been canonically mentioned anywhere, and so all we know is that T-Hex is the invention of Heimerdinger. And that's kinda it. But then there is Thresh, whom you unlock after getting 150 souls. You get him at the very end of the Shadow Isles trait, and that is because Thresh is the big villain behind the entirety of the Shadow Isles. He is the character who pushed Viego into the madness after his queen was finally gone. And in fact, it was Thresh who is technically responsible for the ruination as well as everything that happens after that. So yes, Thresh is the big bad guy at the end of the Shadow Isles. After that, there is also Volibear, whom you unlock after fielding in a unit with a lot of health. This is a reference to the fact that Volibear is an old god of the Freljord. He is considered a brutal force that is raging over the Freljord, that is forcing mortals into fighting for their survival. And so it is only after someone proves that they are worthy of the feral life of Freljord that Volibear blesses them. And so in this case, you can show Volibear that you are worthy by putting up a chunky unit. Then there is Xerath, whom, interestingly enough, you unlock after losing and winning with Azir. And this is of course a reference to the fact that Xerath and Azir used to be friends. Then there was some really bad miscommunication, which ended up with Xerath killing Azir. Of course, later Azir got resurrected as an Ascended, the same thing happened to Xerath of course. And now you have two Ascended demigods fighting for Shurima. That is what all the winning and losing is all about. Next there is Ziggs. Ziggs is a Yordle and he's also technically somewhere in Zone. That's it. And then there is Aurelion Sol, whom you unlock after fielding 5 Targonians. This is a big reference to the fact that Aurelion Sol was enslaved by Mount Targon. Very long time ago, the primitive Targonians made a golden crown for the dragon. Aurelion, being full of ego, put it on, after which he realized that the crown is making him obey Targonians, or specifically, the Targonian aspects. Even more specifically, these days, it is the aspect of Twilight who is holding Aurelion's leash. And for the most part, Targonians are using Aurelion to just evaporate the void. And speaking of the void, there's also Baron Nashor, which is just a big void creature, nothing special. Then there is Brock, whom you unlock after playing a lot of Ishtal. This is because the Ishtali elemental mages use their magic to make these constructs to protect their land, with one of the best of these mages being Nazuk, who constructed an entire floating citadel, moved it over the void to fight it, but the void won, the citadel crumbled, and one of those pieces of that citadel became Malphite. So technically, Brock is an Ishtali construct, similar to Malphite. Then there is Rise. Rise's entire story is all about traveling around the world and collecting the world runes to take them away from mortals who use them for really bad things. And his ability changes depending on what traits you are using, because it is referencing how Rise is also collecting all kinds of different magic as he's traveling around the world. Next up there is also Silas, whom you get after selling 2-star Jarvan, Garen and Lux. This is a reference to the fact that Silas used to be a prisoner of Demacia. This was during the times when Demacians really didn't like mages. This is because historically mages always screwed everything up for Demacians, and so it simply became illegal to be a mage. Which also means, naturally, being a mage, Silas was eventually imprisoned. Of course, it didn't take long, and with the indirect help of Lux, he managed to escape. He kickstarted the entire Mage Rebellion, after which he fought Garen, and for a brief moment he managed to conquer the Great Halls of Demacia, where he defeated Jarvan. And so, to unlock Silas, you have to break his shackles by killing the royal family. Hey, all of that is shown in the Lux comic. Which takes us to the last locked unit, which is Zahen. If you have seen the latest cinematic from League of Legends, you know exactly what this is. You need to get a specific augment with Xin Zhao, after which you have to fully commit into Xin Zhao to unlock Zahen. Of course, this is because Xin Zhao is dead. He gave his body to Zahen, and so you can't have him without the other. So yes, if you want to be a TFT lore master, you also have to watch League of Legends cinematics. But that is all the locks that are available in the newest set of TFT. As I mentioned, the vast majority of these are related to lore, with some exceptions, like Kaisa. But other than that, I absolutely love the attention to detail. No matter where you look, there is lore everywhere. And I mean, it is in the name of the set. But more than that, there is also one thing that people really appreciate, and that is TFT just saving old designs. Look, we appreciated Wild Rift for this before, but now, look at that Nidalee! This is her canonical form.